adjust that a little bit. Okay, so welcome along. A couple of minutes early, so everyone to get tuned in there. This class is a direct collaboration between Siel Bleu Ireland and the Irish Cancer Society. So we're just providing these classes every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So really looking forward to delivering the class today. And my name is Shane, and I have delivered a couple of classes before for you guys. So really looking forward to it today. And as I said, we'll do a full kind of check-in in a minute or two. All we'll want for the session today, I'd recommend have a good sturdy chair like this one. You can do the session in a seated position or in a standing position. It's entirely up to you, whatever feels best. We will also use weights. So I'm just going to grab mine. I have 2 weights or dumbbells that I will use. But if you have tins or bottles of water that you can use, anything like that can work just fine. Instead. And I'd always say as well, just to have a bottle of water at the ready. So just important, keep hydrated during the session as well, really important. So say we'll just give it one more minute there for people to tune in, and then we'll get started. If you happen to be watching the class at a later time of the day or maybe tomorrow, again, just skip ahead maybe a minute and then we'll have started. Any questions, just let me know, just in the comment section there, just let me know. Or if you want to get in touch after the session, had any questions about any of the exercises, again, just feel free to get in touch and just let me know. So just give it, say, one more minute, let everyone tune in. Checking okay. Perfect. So the class today will be a mix of aerobic and strength work. So just think working the lungs, working the heart with our aerobic work, and then we'll be doing some strength work. So specifically looking to strengthen some of our muscles, keeping our bodies strong. So just checking, we have a couple in now. Okay, so just getting into the class now. So as I said there, my name is Shane. I'll be guiding you through the class today. You're very welcome along. This is a collaboration between Siel Bleu Ireland and the Irish Cancer Society. So great to be working with the Irish Cancer Society and delivering these classes every Wednesday at 10. So as I said, the class will be a mix of strength and aerobic work. The important thing is, and what I've come across in my experience of teaching these classes live, is for everyone to do what they can. You can do the session seated, you can do it standing, and you can change any exercise. If a movement feels painful, change the exercise to something that's comfortable. So that would be the main thing. Well, that's probably enough talking for me for now. So let's begin and get ourselves moving. So I'm going to lead from a standing position. You can begin in a seated position if you prefer. So very simple. I'm going to work the shoulders first, just to lift up and roll back. So I just want to get the shoulders moving here, lifting up and rolling back. So just getting my shoulders switched on, any kind of tightness around the shoulders. This is just a nice place to start and where I generally start most of my warm-ups. Next, if I change direction and begin rolling the shoulders forward. So just slowly rolling the shoulders forward here. Excellent. Next, what I want to do is bring hands to my shoulders and just start lifting one elbow up at a time. Okay. So these movements, again, just what I've come across is typically people will maybe have tightness around the chest, shoulders, and that can be related to treatment, surgery sometimes. So gentle movements like this can be really good just to open out any areas that feel a little bit tight and stiff. Progressing into lifting the 2 elbows together now. And again, I think the importance of the warm-up, we're bringing that heart rate up. We're just loosening out all the joints and just paying particular attention before we start to load up any movements with weight and go a little bit more vigorous in terms of intensity. So keeping the elbows up now, I want to open my right elbow and then open my left elbow. So opening out to the sides, one at a time. Okay, and again, I'm just thinking opening out my chest and opening out that shoulder. And next, I'll progress into lifting or opening out 2 elbows together. So again, a nice light movement, but should feel quite good. And back down. Just going to bring the elbows in and clench the hands and just start curling the arms up. So switching on the arms, just curling up. All these movements nice and light in the warm-up. So nothing's too vigorous just yet. Just think we're warming up, loosening everything out. Just switching on my arms. And back down. Next, right hand to shoulder. And just get that elbow drawing circles. So I open out my shoulder here. Again, I don't need to go in a huge range. Don't need to go too fast. Just change direction. So a really nice movement if you feel any kind of tightness around that shoulder. Swap sides, left hand to shoulder. And again, slowly around in circles. And then change direction. It's nice and controlled with that rotation. And back down. Perfect. Next, what I want to do is bring hands to my shoulders. So I'm doing a lot of movements like that. So I'll keep my feet good and strong in position and just gently rotate to the right and rotate to the left. You notice the movement is in my upper body. I'm trying not to let the hips take over the movement. I just think a little rotation through my upper body, whatever kind of range I can comfortably get. I don't need to turn too dramatically from side to side, just a nice controlled rotation. And your head can just flow with the movement. And back down. Perfect. And next, what I want to do is bring it into a march. And again, you're just mimicking all these same movements if in a seated position. Nothing really different. Again, so you can hold the chair if you want here. And just bring it into a march. Just warming the body up, getting the legs moving. Blood flow all around the body. And just bringing that heart rate up. So we're just preparing for some of the main work ahead before we go a little bit more intense with our work. Okay, I'm just going to keep marching for another couple of seconds. And next, what I want to do is hold on to the chair if you have it alongside you. If you're in a seated position, I want you to just extend the legs out. So what I want to do is just go for a mini squat. So just a little bend of the knees. And I got my hips down and back. So what I'm doing here is just testing out before we do a squat or a sit to stand later in the session. You're just checking out if this movement feels okay or if it feels tight, stiff. Now is the time to kind of discover that and be aware before we go more challenging with this movement. So I'm not looking for full range. I think a quarter of a normal squat range here. And then back to a march. Any of these leg movements, if you feel any way unbalanced, just hold on to your chair alongside you. I'm just marching it out. And what I want to do next is just lightly kick the legs out. So that's why I'll just hold on to the chair, just as I lightly extend the legs out in front. Just a nice light kick, getting the legs moving. And finally, we're just going to warm up those ankles. So if I bring my right foot up, slowly around in circles. And again, I don't want this to be about balance. So I'm going to hold on to my chair as I slowly open up the foot around in circles. And back the opposite way. Nice and slow, back the opposite way. And then swap sides. I'm going to lift my left foot up. Slowly around in circles. Again, that's the challenge here, is to keep this movement nice and steady, not to go too fast. And then I'll change direction again, nice and slow, around in circles. and just bringing it back to a march. Just going to go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's us ready to go. Okay, so let's get into some main work now. Excuse me a second. Look at that, make a little bit less noise. Okay, so what we're going to do is get into our first kind of circuit or block of work, and this will be an aerobic block of work. So this will be about lots of movement. Again, I want you to do the movements standing or seated, whatever is best for you. I will lead in a standing position with the chair alongside me, but if you want to mimic any of these movements from seated, then you can do that. So I'm going to grab my timer here. I'm going to guide us through all these movements. We're going to work for about 14-15 minutes, and the idea is we keep constant movement. So we try not to stop. We keep our body moving. Work to a point where you could still talk as you perform the movement. So if you were completely breathless, couldn't get words out, that might mean you're pushing too hard. I want a little bit of exertion. I might be a little bit red, a little bit puffy, but I could still get words out. So first, what I want us to do, get into place. I have my clock here. First movement, I want to bring the arms up and I want to row, pull back and step forward. So that's how I begin. Pull back and step forward. I'm keeping the hands clenched and I'm just bringing my elbows back. So I'm getting a nice squeeze between my shoulders. So I'll think upper back and shoulders. And that's the action, just rowing, pulling back. And I get a little squeeze between those shoulders. I don't need to come back too harsh, too vigorous. And I think this first round, you're just kind of discovering the movement. So we can go with a little bit more intensity as we go along, but just make sure everything feels okay. If you're seated, you can just perform that rowing action, that pull back movement, and put a little step forward as well if comfortable. If the rowing action is uncomfortable, just going for the step. And likewise, if the step is uncomfortable, just the row. Next, just bring it down to a march. This is our kind of reset position. So we'll just march and we get ready for our second movement, which will be a side-to-side step with the front raise. So how that looks: step to the right, lift the arms, step to the left, lift the arms. And we just continue like that. Step to the side, raising the arms. Now, I can turn this into a lunge and put a little bit of weight onto that leg that I shift my side to. Or I can keep it as a very controlled step without really putting any kind of a bend or weight shift. I can keep it much more controlled. Again, this is about you tapering the movement for you, whatever works best for you. So you don't need to step as far as I do. If you're in a seated position, just tap your leg out and raise the arms, exactly the same as I'm doing here. 2, 1, and just bringing it back to march. So I think we have 4 main movements, always broken up with a march. We work for about 50 seconds on a particular movement, and then we reset with a march, but we keep moving all the time. Third movement, what I want to do is bring the arms out, pull the right arm back, and just rotate. Pull the left hand back and rotate. Okay. So just a nice archer movement. Imagine you had a kind of bow and arrow, and that same way you'd pull back. And I just step back, opening my foot to the side as I do that. If you found this movement in any way uncomfortable, maybe you don't want to go for the step, that's fine. Just focus on the pull back and rotation. Maybe if the rotation feels a bit tight and stiff, just focusing on the step, and that's also fine. So again, you're just doing whatever is comfortable to you. If you're in a seated position, just focusing on that arrow pull back. And back to your march, okay? So we just keep it going. Depending on how difficult you're finding the movements, you can make that march really slow and kind of recovery, or else just go with a good moderate pace and keep the intensity up. So fourth, final movement, hip extensions. I want to hold on to the chair here and just start bringing one leg back at a time. My upper body stays straight and I extend my legs back one at a time. So that's hip extension. You're extending from your hip. You're not bending forward and I'm not arching my back here. I just think from the hips, straight leg goes back. Might get a little bit of a squeeze in my glutes here as I perform that as well. And again, all these movements are nice and fluid. I try and go with a nice moderate intensity that gives me a little bit of challenge. So lots and lots of movement here. You can hear my voice now that I'm working, which is what I want. 2, 1, and bringing it back to a march. Okay, so there are your 4 movements, broken up with marching. And as I say, if you find the work tough, you can perform any in a seated position, change any movement, or use your march as like a rest recovery and slowing the pace down. If we're good, we're going to go straight back to the start again with our high row. So clench the hands, pull back and step forward. So again, I just think of bringing the elbows back. So I have that bend in my arms and I'm pulling the, rolling back nice and high as I step forward. Breathing all the time. And again, if you're in a seated position, you're just mimicking the same action. High row, you can just tap a foot forward. Again, it's not about matching my speed. You go at your own kind of comfort. You might be comfortable with these movements, but just need to go a little bit slower than I go, and that's absolutely fine. Whatever is best for you. And back to march. So again, I'm finding the movements okay, and I want to keep going at a good moderate pace. So I go with a good moderate march. But if you're finding it tough, use your march to go a little bit slower and recover. Next movement, side step with raise. So let's begin. Again, I like to go for like a little lunge where I shift a little bit of weight onto that leg that I lift to. If you're not comfortable though, just step. You can see I even jumble the words a little bit there. And that's because I am now working harder. And that's what I want, a little bit of intensity in this block of work. So you're breathing in and out. And again, think the equivalent of being on a treadmill, a bike, a brisk walk. We want challenge here. We don't want this to be easy. So if you're finding it easy, maybe just up the pace a little bit and give yourself a challenge. If you find you're getting plenty from it, just keep going the way you are. If it's difficult, just strip any part of the movements back. And back to march. Again, that march is kind of rest recovery if needed, or else just keep going at that nice moderate pace. Everything feels good. Third movement, our arrow pull back. So arms out, pull back, and rotate. So I pull back and rotate with a little step to the side as well. Again, take any part of this movement out if you don't like the step, for example, or if you're not comfortable with the pullback. If there's any reason there, maybe an injury, that's absolutely fine. If you're seated, just focus on a really good pullback and rotation here. Hand comes into shoulder, and I rotate the upper body. And just stepping with the movement as well. Might find this second round a little bit tougher. Last couple of seconds. And back to march, okay? So I definitely think I find the second round a little bit tougher. We were just exploring the movements, but if all the movements felt okay, we want to go with a little bit of challenge, a little bit of exertion now that we're comfortable with every movement. Fourth, final movement again, hip extension. Hold on to the chair, nice and tall, and pull back, one leg at a time. And again, kind of nice and fluid here. Just making sure that I'm not arching my back And I'm not kind of bending forward over the chair. Just think from the hips, extending a nice straight leg back. And we just keep going nice and smooth. Might feel a little squeeze from the glutes as you power the leg back. That's fine. And we keep going. Might even feel upper leg a little bit here in that hamstring as well. About 10 seconds. Doing really, really well. And 3, 2, 1, and bringing it back to a march. Okay, so again, if it feels okay, keep going, nice and moderate. I should say, if you're seated for that last one, if you wanted to just go with a leg extension, just extend the legs out like so from a seated position. Okay, so back to the start with our full circuit. So movement 1, high row. Step forward and pull back. And again, I kind of know how all the movements feel, so I'm going with a good exertion now. Everything felt good, so I'm giving myself a challenge. I want to feel that I've worked and given myself a challenge. I can still talk. I'm not completely breathless. There's a little pant in my voice now, little red, might get a little eye sweat as well. And that's what we want, a little exertion from this block of work. We're doing everything at a pace that's good for you. It's not about matching me. It's going at a pace that is comfortable for you, that you're happy with. And march. So we bring it back to a march. Again, the march is there. If you need to recover, kind of catch your breath, going really slow with the march and just recovering. If you feel good with everything, just go at a good moderate pace with the march. Side step with front raise next. So how that looks. Step and raise the arms. Again, for me, this movement can be a lunge where I kind of shift a little bit of weight to the side, or I can turn it into a very controlled step like this. So really you just adapt whatever works best for you. If you're seated, lift the leg out to the side, just tap the foot out and raise the arms. So no matter what level we are doing, we're working hard. And we're nearly there in your last couple of movements. And that'll be our aerobic block. So I think this is all good cardiovascular, good for the heart, good for the lungs. I think that same exertion of a brisk walk, an activity like swimming, cycling, that's the intensity we're getting from this work. Back to your march. Again, you're using this as recovery if needed, or just keep going at a good moderate pace. We have 2 final movements, beginning with arrow rotation. So, arms out, right hand back to my shoulder, and a little step. And I do the same on the left. So, just pull the hand back into your shoulder, rotate the upper body, and just open the body out with a step. Again, if you don't like any part of that movement, you just take it out. If you're in a seated position, just focusing on that pull back and rotation. So you're going to get plenty of challenge from it. And we keep going. Nearly there in our circuit. Again, just going to always repeat, going at your own pace. Not about matching me. Go at a speed and that's good for you. And back to your march. Again, nice steady march. You need to go too fast if you're not comfortable, if you're feeling a bit tired at this stage. Slow the pace down. Okay, so you're going to go 1/4 and final movement, which is our hip extension. Hands on the chair and pull back. Again, I keep that body straight. I try not to kind of arch my back. And I'm keeping that leg as straight as I can as I pull back. A little squeeze from the glutes here. And again, I like to use a chair for this one. We don't want to become unbalanced or to turn this into a balanced movement. Rather, we want a very controlled extension from the hips. So the straight leg pulling back. If you're in a seated position, I just want you to extend the legs out. So just think like that kicking action where you extend the legs out. Not a direct kind of replacement, but just a good movement to do as an adaptation. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, absolutely brilliant work there so far. So I can hear that in my voice. You can see a good red puffy face on me now, and that tells me I've worked, and that's what you want from that block of work. And this is just rest recovery, so grab a drink. And as I say, the intention there is to work the heart, the lungs, giving yourself that cardiovascular challenge. Similar, as I said, to a brisk walk, being on a bike, being on a treadmill, an activity like swimming. It's just to work the body, and it's all about movement. So that's all we do. And I just like to add movements that are hopefully interesting and challenge you. So you might have felt some of them felt quite good on the shoulder in terms of posture. Might felt good on the hip. So that's what we were doing there. What we will now do is push into some of our weighted work. So this is where we want to have our chair for some of the movements, and we want to have our dumbbells at the ready. So we have 5 movements, which we will perform in a circuit format. So movement number 1, I'm just going to get my chair out in front here. We won't need any weights for this first movement. So what I'll say is every movement can be performed in a seated or standing position. It's entirely up to you. If you don't like the look of the movement, then I would say just to change it. But I will offer a seated adaptation for every exercise that I show. So I'm going to deliver a squat variation here, or a sit to stand. If you're not comfortable with the exercise that I show, what I want you to do is a leg extension. So if a squat for any reason isn't good for you, just go for a leg extension. If the squat or a sit to stand is okay, I'm going to lead you through that movement. So how my setup looks. My feet, I'm just going to stand back a little bit there. Feet about hip width apart. My knees are soft. My chest is out, and I look directly in front. What I want to do is press one arm to the side and one arm forward as I squat down and pull in. I look to the left, pressing my left arm out. Now, for me, this movement is a squat or a sit to stand. So you'll notice I've kept the chair behind me. I'm not actually sitting down onto it. If you need to sit down like this and take a 1-2 pause, absolutely fine. So you just do a sit to stand if that's better for you than a full squat. Just think I look to the side where the arm goes. So I press the arm to the right and look to the right. Well, the opposite arm goes in front. Keep the pace controlled. We don't want to bounce up and down and go too fast here. Keep it controlled. Keep it steady. If you're not liking the arm movements, just go for a regular squat or sit to stand. And rest. Movement number 2, we are going to grab our 2 weights, okay, or bottles or tins, and how I want to set up. So I'm going to hold the weights in front. We have a couple of seconds on the clock actually, so we'll take our rest. Feet in a good strong position, body's nice and tall, and let's begin. Weights out, pull back, I think into my ribs, and then stretch out. Pull back, stretch out. If you prefer, you can perform this in a seated position, just to sit forward in your chair that you have space to pull the arms back. So I'm going to show you this from different angles. And you see that rowing action, elbows in, squeezing shoulder blades together. Nice controlled pull back. And I think breathe out as I pull in. Refuel as the arms go out. As I tire, these weights might start to drop to a lower angle, but I try and keep it in line, in that same line every time, as I row and pull back. Go last couple of seconds. and rest down, okay? So that's your second movement. Next, we're going to work our hamstring, back of the legs. So I'm going to use my chair for this one. I'll work with my left leg first here since it's nearest the camera. I'm going to hold on to the chair. What I want to do is have the two legs in line, so I don't want my left leg in front. I want it in line with the standing leg or slightly behind. Curl behind and back down. So I think of curling back. This might feel tight and stiff. So I would suggest ease your way into this movement. Don't force it up too high, too fast. Think kind of warming up a little bit. If it feels okay, we then go with a little bit more power into the movement. And now I start to go a little bit higher on my pullback. Again, that upper body is staying straight. I'm not kind of shifting position at all. And I'm not letting my left leg drift forward at all. If I drift forward, I'll take some of that tension off the hamstring, but I want to work it. If you get a little bit of cramp here, don't be alarmed. That's quite a natural response that you will sometimes get here, that it might just suddenly cramp and get a little bit tight and stiff. We just keep going, just checking in with my clock, last couple of seconds. And 1. Okay, let's just shake the legs out after that one. Might feel a bit stiff and tight in the hamstring after that one. We're going to swap over to the right leg now. So we still have a little bit of rest, but let's go through our setup. Hands on the back of the chair. Body is nice and tall. And my right leg will now work. So I keep the right leg in line or just behind that standing leg. I don't want the knee forward at all. I keep it pinned back. And let's begin. Curl, back down. And again, like we did the last time, I'm going to ease my way into position. So I'm not going to go too high, too fast. Just easing your way in. Kind of seeing how it feels. After a couple of reps, if it feels good, then we'll go with a little bit more power into the movement. So getting a nice squeeze back of the leg in your hamstring. Just curling back. And again, just making sure that you're not drifting at all here. Keeping the body tall. Keeping all the work on the back of that leg. So my hamstring, working that guy hard. And I can just set the foot down after every curl. Just checking with our clock. Last couple of seconds. 2 and 1. Okay. And again, let's just shake the legs out after that one. I should have said, just if you were in a seated position for that one, you just straighten the legs out and curl back like so. So from a heel to toe position, curling back. Okay. So next. We're going to go for a arm curl with step. So I grab my 2 weights, elbows in, and how this looks. I step to the right and curl, step to the left and curl. So again, if you're in a seated position, we just leave out the side step and just curling up and down. Or you could tap the toes out side to side if you like. If you're not really happy with the movement here, just keep it static and keep it into a controlled curl. But if you're happy with it, you can do it like I am, just with a side step, just keeping it nice and dynamic. I keep the elbows roughly fixed by my side as I curl the weights up towards my shoulders. I just add a little bit of challenge, extra challenge in by adding this side step with every rep. So just making it a little bit harder. Remember, if maybe we were in a gym, we might be able to pick a kind of heavier weight for a movement like this, but we're in a home setting. So just doing simple things like adding a side step, just make it a little bit more challenging if you're using tins or bottles. And rest. Okay. One more arm movement. So we worked the front of the arm, the bicep. So now we want to work the back of the arm, tricep. So how this will look, again, if you want to perform this in a seated position, you just sit down in the chair and sit forward a little bit. If standing, I want my feet in a good strong position, knees are soft. Take a small little lean forward, my back is straight, and just press the weights behind from my elbows. So you'll see how the action is just pushing back. So if I felt in any way uncomfortable, I could just sit down into my chair to perform that movement. But again, my knees are, I just have a small little lean. Even if you can't quite lean, don't worry about it. Just keep your elbows in a nice fixed position and press the weights back. I like to think this is like a skiing motion where I'm pressing behind, just pushing the weights away. If you find you need to bring the weights forward to generate a little bit of power, absolutely fine to do it like that. A movement like this, when it comes to the triceps, I just want you to feel a little burn back of the arms. If the back feels strong and you feel a little burn back of the arms, perfect. And rest. Okay, so rest the weights down. And that's your first round completed. Okay, so that's your first round. Just check in with yourself. How did all of that feel? Was there any movement you didn't like? If you didn't like it, maybe just strip it back. So performing from a seated position, or if it just wasn't a good movement at all, just to change to something that you know you're comfortable with. For example, a march, extending the legs. If everything felt kind of okay and comfortable, we're going to continue on as we were. And now we are familiar with the movements, we can give ourselves a good challenge. But again, doing everything at your own pace and comfort. So, setting up our timer again. A squat or sit to stand. Remember, if you don't like this movement, leg extension is the action you will perform. If comfortable, feet hip width, knees are soft, chest out, head up. And I bring the arms in. I squat down. And I bring a little rotation in with my head. So right arm out, I look to the right. Left arm out, look to the left. And the opposite arm goes forward. So a little bit of coordination into a regular squat or a sit to stand. So again, if you're not quite happy squatting, I want you to fully sit down into that chair. Even if you're quite happy with the squat, I'm keeping that chair behind just to make sure I'm getting those hips moving correctly, that they're going back and down as I squat. I don't want to kind of shift my weight forward. I want to push the hips down and back as I squat. So even just briefly tapping the chair lets me know I'm keeping everything in position. And rest. Second movement. We grab our two dumbbells. Again, this is the rowing action. If in any way you felt uncomfortable, sit into the chair and forward in your chair that you have a little bit of space. We take our two weights, my feet, good strong position. Keep the knees soft. I don't want to be too rigid. Just soften the stance a little. Arms out. Pull back into my ribs and stretch out. Pull back, stretch out. And again, I like to exhale as I pull back. It's the main kind of exertion here. Even a movement like this, if you just find it's a little bit uncomfortable, maybe if the weights are a bit heavy, drop the weights and just continue with the same action. From behind. Squeezing shoulder blades together. You know, really nice connection in my back. Just pull back. Squeezing, keeping the weights in that same line every time. As I tire, they might start to drop, but I keep them roughly in line with my ribs. And down. Next movement, our leg curl. So hamstring is what we work next. So set up. I'm going to be nice and tall. I'm going to hold the back of my chair. And I'm going to work that left leg first. So I just bring the left leg back in line with the standing leg, or pinned back a little bit. And let's begin. Curl and back down. So remember, as I said, if it feels a bit tight and stiff, maybe you don't need to go quite so high up with the movement. And I'd also urge against going too fast. So if I go really, really fast here, it might just kind of tire out quite quickly. I just want a good, strong, controlled pullback. Feeling the hamstring, the back of my upper leg. My upper body stays tall. I don't shift forward over the chair. I just keep everything nice and straight. If you find you're not feeling this movement, just check where that left leg is. If your knee has drifted forward in this position, you're kind of bypassing some of the work on the hamstring. So keep the leg pinned back on that active side. Keep it in line with the standing leg to feel that hamstring. And down. Okay, let's just shake the legs out. So every exercise, we have a little rest time afterwards. Just catch your breath. Might feel a bit tight, stiff. As I said, don't be worried if you feel a bit of tightness in the hamstring. We would expect that a little bit. So about 10 seconds. So let's set up. Holding the back of my chair again. My right leg is active, so I keep it in line with the straight leg, standing leg, and it's pinned back a little bit. Nice and tall. Curl back. You can see how I just let the foot rest down after every rep. Again, I try and avoid any being too harsh with that pullback. Just a good, strong, controlled pullback. Feeling my hamstring, back of the leg. Remember again, if you're not really feeling the movement, make sure the leg is in line with the standing leg, that your knee isn't drifting forward. Putting all the work on the back of your legs is what we want here. Upper body just continues to stay nice and tall. We keep going. We're doing really, really well. A lot of good hard work today. Remember, if you're in a seated position, we're just pulling back from a heel to toe position. So you can just mimic that action in seated. Heel to toe position. Keep forgetting that one to add. And rest. Okay. So next movement, we want to take our 2 dumbbells again. Arm curl with a lateral step. So remember, if you're not liking this in standing, just to perform an arm curl seated. So I have my 2 weights, elbows in, hands going to face up, and let's begin in 3, 2, 1. So step and curl. I exhale as I curl the weights up. So that's where I kind of apply the power, is curling up. Refuel as the weights lower down. Exhale, curling up. Inhale as the weights lower down. Again, maybe you just want to do this movement without the step. Absolutely fine. Just go for a static arm curl. Just regular curling up and down, exactly as I am, without the step. And in seated position, just curling up and down as well. You can add a little toe tap if you want, side to side. That's great work. Just approaching the end of our second round of the circuit. Just finishing out 3, 2, 1. Okay, we pause, can hold on to the weights. This is our press back with weights. So again, if you felt in any way uncomfortable, again, just to sit down to your chair for this one. I'll just give a quick demo actually while we have time. So how that would look is I could sit forward in my chair, just bring the elbows back and push back. And if I wanted, I could bring a little bit of a lean into the position rather than a bend. Think of a lean. Okay. If standing, again, what I want to do is keep my knees nice and soft. So I don't want to be rigid. I want to be nice and soft, relaxed. A little tilt forward, elbows back and press. So I think my upper arm is fixed in position and I push back from my elbows. As I said on the last one, if you find that the weights need to come forward a bit to generate that power, that's absolutely fine. If you feel you're in a strong position, nothing feels pressured, and you can feel a little connection with the back of the arms, then we're happy with this movement. Just pressing back. And I exhale, pressing back. Think like a skiing motion, pressing away. Final couple of seconds. 2, 1, and rest. Okay. So second round completed. Again, another really, really good block of work there. Take a drink of water if you want. So we will finish with 1/3 and final round. What I want to say is if you feel you've done a lot of work there, you feel you kind of pushed to the limit there and you've done enough, it's absolutely fine if you feel that's enough. Don't feel pressured to do exactly what I am doing. Everyone is building up. Everyone is at a different stage in terms of recovery. So if you feel that was enough for today and maybe want to come back to the video later, that's absolutely fine. And you can do it like that. Do it in blocks. And I know some people have mentioned that they have performed maybe the aerobic block and then they come back later to do the strength work. So things like that can make it tough. Maybe if this 60 seconds is hard, just break the work up throughout the day just like that. But if everything feels good, I'm going to bring you through the circuit one last time. Okay, so let's get ourselves set up. Remember, if you don't like the squat and sit to stand that I do, maybe the back isn't good today, anything like that, we just want to go for a leg extension. If you feel okay, what I want to do is keep the feet hip width. My knees are soft, my chest is out, head looks forward. And I squat or sit to stand with the arm movement. So left arm out, look to the left. Right arm out, look to the right. Again, if I'm not quite comfortable squatting, I turn it into a full sit. So like this. And I can take that little pause as I sit down. If I like to squat, I can just squat. And if the squat or sit to stand isn't good for you today, you're just extending those legs out. Again, I'm adding a little coordination with the arms. If you would rather just focus on the movement of a regular squat, sit to stand like this, that's absolutely fine as well. It's all about choice and just doing what's good for you. And it's just an interesting variation just to keep it interesting, the circuit. And down. Perfect. Movement number 2, rowing. So again, let's give a little seated demo. If you weren't liking this in standing, I would sit forward in the chair, nice and tall, and the movement is to pull back. And you might just find when you're supported by the chair that everything feels a bit sturdier and stronger. So if you need seated, perfect fine here. If standing, again, just keep those knees soft, weights in front, pull back. And you'll see how I'm just rowing roughly into my ribs, that kind of mid position. I don't want to row up too high here. I just keep roughly in towards my ribs. I think the elbows coming in. I don't want to flare out too wide. So I get things squeezing shoulder blades together. I exhale, curling back or pulling back. And just from the sides. Again, as I tire, the weights might start to drift down. So that's where I'm kind of working hard to keep the weights in position. There's lots of different variations you might see for rowing with people with a foot in front. I'm just keeping it super simple today. Regular standing position with row. Perfect. Next movement. Rest on the clock here, so there's no panic to rush in. If you feel really breathless, I want you to just strip it back, catch your breath, and there's no pressure at all. So leg curl next. We're just going to set up. I'm going to hold on to the back of my chair, keep the body tall, and that left leg, that's my active side, is in line with the standing leg. Curl behind and back down. So a curl on the back of the leg, working your hamstring. Again, just remember, if you're not really feeling much, just keeping the leg in line with the standing side. If that knee is forward, I kind of take some of the challenge off. So I do want to keep it, that position is quite important here. Again, if you're finding the leg is just a bit heavy at this stage, don't force it back too far. Don't go too harsh with the movement. If you find you can only get to here now, that's absolutely fine. Do what's good for you. Again, maybe now just the leg feels a bit like lead and you just need to pause, shake the leg out before continuing on. Take that little breather. Just checking on the clock. 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to go on to that right leg just quickly again. If you're not liking that standing, you just find you've done enough. Heel, toe. So we'll just go for the same kind of position, curling the leg back from a seated position. Okay? If you're okay with the standing version, again, we hold on to the back of the chair, nice and tall, and that right leg is back. So the right leg is my active leg, so I keep it in line with the standing side and begin pulling back. And again, just all about feeling that tension, curl, connection in my hamstring, back of the leg. And again, I can rest down here as long as I like. So if I'm finding the legs getting very heavy now, I might take a longer break as the foot comes down. Just make sure everything feels good to you. Again, maybe you just need to give it a full rest and kind of shake the leg out before coming back. Body staying tall. I imagine now we're on the last couple of seconds. I'll hear my timer shortly. Yeah. Last reps. 2, 1. Perfect. Okay. Just going to finish out with your last 2 exercises for today. So I'm taking my 2 dumbbells, arm curl, so front of the arms. Elbows in by your side, hands faced forward, and we'll begin with our side step and curl. If you prefer, seated position is fine. Just going to work the arms either way. So let's begin in 3, 2, 1. Step and curl. Again, I'm just adding a little step in to give me that extra bit of challenge in this movement. As I said, imagine if we were in a gym for a movement like an arm curl, we could probably give ourselves a decent challenge with the weight. For at home, maybe using bottles or tins, just to give a little bit of extra challenge and to keep the movement nice and dynamic, just adding a little side step in as an option. Again, you might prefer to just focus on the action of curling up and down, and that's fine. Again, if you're getting a little bit tired, maybe just drop it down to one arm at a time. So it could look like this. And you might just keep a little bit of power that way if you find you're tiring out. Last couple of seconds. 2, 1. And rest, okay? Into one final movement. So that was working the front of the arm, bicep. Now we want to work the back of the arm, tricep. So this is actually a bigger muscle. The biggest muscle in our arm is the back, our tricep here. So important we balance it out as well. I think today we've worked our thighs with those squat or sit to stands. We worked our hamstrings with our curls. We've worked the front of our arm, the back of the arm. We worked our back with our rowing. So we've done a lot on top of the aerobic work. So set up. Knees are soft. You just naturally tilt forward here. Elbows back, and I press. So I think that skiing action, pressing the weights behind from the elbows, pressing back. Again, if you find it's like this where you need to generate a little bit of power, that's fine. If you feel the back of the arms, a little connection, then I'm happy on this one. And you find the rest of your body feels good, your back feels strong, nothing feels painful, and we're good. I'm just trying to feel back of the arms, so I press from the elbows, and I just think connecting with the back of my upper arms. Last couple of seconds. If you're in a seated position, you just have that little lean forward and pressing back the same way. 2, 1, and rest. So that's us finished. Only thing left to do is just to cool ourselves down. So that's a good intense block of work. Really good bout of work there. So it's really important now that we do bring ourselves back to rest in the form of a cool down. So a couple of stretches. You can do these stretches seated, standing again. I'm just going to demonstrate from a standing position just to give you the best view of it. If you're sitting down, sit forward in your chair a little bit. So what I want to do first, just bring hands together behind my back and just lightly bring those arms back and hold. I'm just going to hold that position. So I'm just opening out from the shoulders and I hold the stretch, a good long stretch. I want these stretches to start kind of relaxing us down, so I don't want to be in a really tense tight position where I feel really hard and maybe the arms are shaking. I want this to feel comfortable. And then rest down. Keeping those hands together, arms still straight. Pull back again. And hold. Just hold that position. Good long stretch. And back down. Okay. Next, just kind of opening of the chest position. You might feel the shoulder blades squeeze here. Arms by your side. And pull back as far as you comfortably can. And I think about opening out my chest here. I'm squeezing shoulder blades together and I open out the shoulders a little bit as well. And relax. And again, just pull back and hold. And relax in. And let's go for that once more. I know my head's out of shot a little bit, but just want to focus on the kind of how I puff the chest out. Hold that stretch. And back down. Similar movement. What I want to do is bring arms across chest and just lightly pull back out in a nice wide W shape. So I think from my left hand to my right hand, there's a W shape. And if I show from the side, you'll see how my hands are pulled back a little bit, getting a nice squeeze in my shoulder blades. And then relax. And once more, pull back nice and wide. Hold your stretch. And back down. Okay. And we'll just finish the last two in seated position. So what I'm going to do is just sit nice and tall, bring my right knee up, and just gently pull that knee up. Just hold. And back down. And the left knee up. Just gently raise the knee up and hold position. And back down. Next, just want to finish off with those hamstrings because we did work them hard today. So I like to sit forward for this one. Let's get my angle best. I'm forward in my chair. I straighten my right leg out. So I'm the heel of my right leg. Body is tall, and I just gently lean forward. And I might start to feel a little stretch on the back of that leg and that hamstring that we worked. Just going to hold for a couple of seconds longer here. Just feeling a little stretch. I find I don't need to lean very far to get that connection. So just proceed slowly with that lean forward. And then back in. Go with your left leg. So straight left leg on the heel. Nice and tall. And just gently lean forward. I only have to lean a couple of inches and I feel that stretch. I don't want to go fast and kind of shoot forward and get a sudden sharp kind of twinge there. I want to slowly ease into this stretch. And back. Once more. Right leg. Tall and lean. And getting that little stretch in the back of my leg. And back down. Once more. Left leg is straight on my heel. Body is tall. And we just lean forward. Holding that stretch. And back in. Perfect. We'll just finish out just to make sure we feel nice and relaxed. Inhale through the nose. Nice slow exhale. And again, inhale. Slow exhale. It's going to go for 3 more. 2 more. 1 more. Perfect. So that's us finished. I will just quickly say, just while the comment section is open live there, if you have any questions, any issues, just let me know in the comments there. Session, but really great work. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed teaching that. So hopefully you guys feel good after that as well. But any questions, any issues, let me know. And I say that's just a collaboration between Siel Bleu Ireland and the Irish Cancer Society. So really great work. You worked very hard no matter what layer that you did. So I'm trying to set the pace quite tough and showing how you can give yourself that challenge. But equally, there's nothing wrong with stripping some of the movements back a bit. Remember, I am leading at quite a hard level. So you can go back to seated or just change the movements a bit and still have worked yourself very, very hard. So great work and enjoy the rest of your day. Well done, everyone. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate that. Thanks very much. Great work, everyone. Well done. It's going to end the stream now. Brilliant stuff.